So today we are going back to our tutorials and we're going to be learning a new feature tool. So if you remember, feature tools are the tools that help us turn our sketches into these three-dimensional objects, or the features, is what OnShape calls them. So today we're going to be learning this new feature tool called Sweep. And so Sweep allows you to create different figures that follow certain paths. So when you do a sweep, you have to start with two things. You have to start with a path, so basically that kind of road that you want your face to actually trace, to go around. So it's similar to a revolve, except it's following a path instead of just revolving around an axis. So we have to give the path first, and then we also have to give the actual face that we want to follow along this path. If you have these two together and you use the sweep tool, you can create something cool like a little hanger. So that's what we're going to do in our tutorial today. Because we've been off for a couple weeks, I really wanted to review some of the basic things from sketching. So we're going to be doing a lot more dimensioning, not just kind of free doing these things. You'll see that your hanger actually has all these dimensions, and I'm going to be referring to this diagram. You're going to also do the same thing on your homework. So make sure that you pay attention to the dimensions in the picture that you're going to be doing for the homework. All right, let's go ahead and get into it then. So you'll need to create a new document, and just a reminder of our naming convention.
The proper naming convention is class name _ sweep demo _ last name.
Demo 10. So make sure you follow that correct naming convention so that you get full credit on this check for understanding. All right. So, welcome back to your beautiful workspace. Today we're actually going to be using the top and the front planes. But to create this outline, so to create this path that we want our sweep to follow, we're going to actually be doing that on the top plane. So right now, for the moment, you can hide the front plane, you can hide the right plane, and then remember, if we click on top, that'll view normal to, or view straight on to the top plane that we are trying to sketch on. All right, so if we look at the picture, it looks like we start at the origin. So you can see that this arc starts at the origin and then goes down, and it has, all these other components. That starting at the origin is going to be really, really important, because if you notice, if I bring this front plane back up, notice that the top plane and the right, or the front plane, intersect at this origin. And we're going to actually be doing our face, sketching that face on the front plane, and it has to be touching one of the ends of your path. So in order to make sure that that happens, we make sure that the sketch actually starts at the origin, so then they're already intersecting. Okay? So let's go ahead and start. It looks like from the picture, we need a arc that is centered here and has a radius of 25. So that's going to be a center point arc. So if we go to our sketch and we start on the top plane, we choose arcs, and you see that there's a center point arc. We don't want to make the origin the center. If you make the origin the center, well, then the outside of the arc isn't going to be on the center, so you won't start at the origin. So we want to make sure that we're starting over a little bit from the origin, and we're going to dimension this so it doesn't have to be exact. But then the first click after you've clicked in to start the arc, the first click needs to be on the origin, because that will create this arc, and then we can use the auto dimension features and just make sure that yellow line popped up, so it'll be 180 degrees right there. Okay, so as you can see, that was the first part of this arc, and then we're going to go ahead and dimension this as we go, so then into the sizing and the zoom errors. So you can see that this radius for the arc needs to be 25. Right now it's 18. So to change that, what we're going to do is click on the dimension tool, or you can press the letter D on your keyboard, and then you just have to click on that outside of the arc, and now it says, okay, radius of, and in this case, we wanted a radius of 25. Okay, so if we go back to our picture, we can see perfect. We got a radius of 25, and then the next thing we need, so we have this arc here, the next thing we need is a straight line that's 40 millimeters long. So we'll go ahead and go to our line tool. We can either click on the line tool or we can press L on the keyboard for a shortcut. We'll go ahead and make that line. Remember, it doesn't matter if we're doing this, how far it is right now, because we're going to use the dimension tool next, D, and we said that this needs to be exactly 40 millimeters. Okay? So we've already got the top part of this hanger down. Now we just need to get our kind of triangle part of this hanger. And so the next thing we'll do is we'll actually create these 3 lines, and then we'll add in these dimensions for the angle. So it looks like we have a 25-degree angle, a 25-degree angle, and then we have a 400 millimeter base of this hanger. So let's go ahead and actually draw these. We're going to need to zoom out because obviously, we're not going to be able to do that on the screen that we have here. So remember, if you just scroll back, you'll scroll out there. And then we'll start with our line. So we can either press L or click on the line tool. We'll do a line out here, a line across here, and then a line. And we don't want them to connect. So one thing that you need to know about the sweep tool is that you can only sweep along a single path. So if your paths intersect, the sweep tool will not work. Okay, so if we connected this all the way, then we wouldn't be able to use the sweep tool. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is create those angle dimensions. All right, so this was a 25-degree angle and this was a 25-degree angle. So again, we'll click on dimension or press the letter D on the keyboard. This time, if we want to dimension an angle between 2 lines, we have to click on both of those lines, and then you'll see that it pops up. So we don't want this to be 27, we want it to be 25. And we'll do the same thing for this other set of lines. So this also needs to be 25. All right, that looks good. So then the other dimension that I saw, other than the 2 fillets, is this base, and this base needs to be 400. So if we're going to dimension this, all we need to do is click on it, pull it down, and change that dimension to be 400. All right, now this does not look like the hanger that we had in our picture here, okay? And so obviously we have these sharp edges, we're gonna have to fillet those, but we're gonna have to move this point to be closer to where we're at here, or else this hanger is really not gonna be structurally sound. So to do that, because we haven't put any sizes or dimensions on either of these legs of the triangle, we can actually, if we press escape to get out of our dimension tool, we can actually click on this point and move it to exactly where we want. And it's going to keep all of those dimensions that we already set. So I want to click and move it pretty close to where this is going to almost intersect, but it won't touch all the way because remember, we can't use sweep if our paths intersect, okay? And so now that looks pretty good. So the only issue that we have with this hanger right now is that these sharp corners would rip your clothes. So this would not be a really effective hanger. So we want to use the fillets tool. So remember, to use the fillets tool, all we do is click on sketch fillet, and then we have to choose the 2 lines that are like intersecting, or we can actually just click on the intersection point itself. So I think that's a little bit easier. Click on the intersection point itself, and you'll see that, okay, it's automatically jumping to a radius of 4 right now, and that's what we're going to eventually want. If it didn't, then we would just need to click or type 4 and then press enter, and perfect. Then we'll go over to our other really sharp edge here. We'll click on that, and look, it automatically jumped to a radius of 4. So all we have to do is just click outside once and then press enter. So there is a beautiful trace path for a hanger, but this in itself, if we confirm the sketch, this is nothing. This is just a line, okay? So if we went to a 3D printer, it wouldn't do anything with this at all. And now is where we actually are going to create the object. So we need to go back to the front plane, okay? And we're going to be sketching on this front plane. So let's go ahead and click on the cube on front so we can see this. Now, I can kind of see these lines, and I don't know if it's really annoying to you, but to me, these lines are kind of annoying. So if I want to hide that sketch that I just made, I click on this eyeball and hide that. And now I can create my 5 millimeter radius that I need for this hanger. So if we're going back to the original blueprint for what we need to follow, you can see that the sweep face just needs to be a circle, the center point circle on the origin, on the front plane, that has a radius of a diameter, it looks like, of 5 millimeters. Okay, and that's pretty easy to do. So we'll go back to our sketch here. We'll create a new sketch on the front plane. I didn't name my first one, which I'm going to go back and do because that's important, proper convention when you're using 3D modeling tools. But this is going to be the face which we are going to actually sweep. So I want to make sure I've named that correctly so I don't get confused if I'm going back and editing. Okay? So like I said, all we need is a center point circle that starts at the origin and has a diameter. So if it says R, that's radius. If it has the circle with a line through it, that's diameter. So we'll dimension this. Either press D or click on the dimension tool, and we'll just make this 5 millimeters. Super easy. Okay. Now remember, sketch 1, we can go ahead and show this again. Let's give this a name because it does have a name. What is this? Sketch 1 is the trace path. So we'll rename it. Trace the sweep. And there we go. So we now know we have the sweep path and we have the face. So those are the two things that I told you need. And now all we have to do is actually apply this sweep tool. So when you click on sweep, you're going to see that you need a couple different things. So you need to choose the face that you want to sweep. So that was the circle that we just created. So we'll go ahead, click on that circle. And then this sweep path turns red. So it's saying, well, I need to see, what line do you want me to follow? What line do you want me to, move this around? So we click on that sweep path. And then we can either choose the lines individually, but this is kind of like a tedious process because you have to click on every single one of them. So instead of doing that, instead of clicking on all the individual lines, what you can do is you can just click on the actual thing in the toolbar over here where it says sweep path. You can click on the sketch and it will sweep the entire thing. So we need to confirm that. And there we go. We got a nice little hanger. So I don't know about you guys. I got a bunch of new clothes for Christmas. I need a few hangers to hang these up. I think I might just have to 3D print a few of these things and add them to my closet. Save some money. All right. Good luck with the homework tonight. For the homework, you're going to be following this using the same tools, kind of some of the same dimensions, but you're going to be creating a paper clip for the homework. So good luck. And if you have any questions, obviously call me into the breakout room.